Mixed Media Creations with me, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill. Today we are creating designer clipboards, a great gift idea. Links to supplies in the description box below. Thank you if you do any shopping using my links. Hit the subscribe button. Check the option to be notified as soon as I upload. That way you won't miss any. So I'm starting with a mini clipboard, and again I'm repurposing part of my past life as a teacher. These are something that I used in the classroom with kids, and since I've wanted to do this for a long time, this has been sitting in my studio with a couple coats of gesso for quite a while. And today, for whatever reason, I just got the inspiration to do something with this. So the stamp that you see me using, this is a Stamp Pendus stamp, and it was one of my first stamps, and I absolutely love it. What I'm doing is applying black acrylic paint to the stamp with a makeup sponge and just pressing it on. I'm trying to alter the position of the stamp. And you have to remember that you need to put it in the middle parts first, because afterwards it's going to be a little bit difficult. Now the stamping that I've just done is going to be pushed into the back by a layer of paint. And I like this effect. That's like starting with print or starting with pattern underneath it, and then you push it back and it peeks through at the final end. So I've pulled out my Dylusions paints, and I'm going with the Peacock colors. I've got the cut grass, the vibrant turquoise, London blue, crushed grape, and after midnight, which is the dark blue. And I'm just applying that with the Ranger felt applicators that I've put on my own blocks. Again, repurposing my teacher stamps and other stamps that I no longer use. So as always with the Dylusions paints, when I do apply them in this way, the first layer kind of goes through that ugly stage. You just kind of want to put color on, and you're going to be blending, you're going to be adding at least another coat of this. And this is one of the reasons I love these Dylusions paints. They blend so easily. I'm doing the the edge of the clipboard as well. This is the very first time that I've done a clipboard. I have not done one ahead of time. I'm just doing it and figuring it out as I go. You also saw me kind of working around the clip. Some of them have kind of screws and you can unscrew it and then reapply the hardware. This one does not. And it really wasn't too big of a problem getting the paint in and around it. So after the first layer, you need to let it dry. Now this board that the clipboard is made of seems to soak up the moisture, so it's taking a little bit longer to dry. So, I flip it over and I decide, I have to do something on the back because one, I have some scribbles on there and I don't want to see that. So I am putting 2 layers of white gesso on here. Now I didn't sand this down to give it some edge to cling on, and doesn't seem to have a problem. But again, with the gesso, the moisture goes into that wood, and I just found and noticed compared to paper, right? This is just a bit different substrate. So if you saw me doing the index card a day challenge, you'll know that I did them on the back of old flashcards, another substrate that I've pulled from my past career as a teacher. So I have oodles of things that I have repurposed in my art. Either organizational things like the filing cabinet and containers, or substrates. So look through what you have and what can you repurpose. You don't necessarily need to go out and buy something new. So I'm just getting a nice level coat of that. So I'm applying the stamp much like I did or exactly like I did in the beginning. Now this is at an angle because of course the hardware is there, and you can see how I didn't get a nice print. Now I wasn't overly concerned because this is going to be pushed to the back, but I simply put the hardware at the edge of the table, and that allowed me to get a perfect stamp. So you just, you don't have to have that mistake. Now, do you have to decorate the back? No, I'm just thinking if you're hanging it, you might it's nice to have both parts done. And I just wanted to try out two different looks, one on the front, one on the back. Kind of get my bang for buck. But you could have just put a coat of coordinating paint to the front and been done with it without going through all the extra detail. Now this video for the most part has been sped up about 3 times. It took in complete time just over an hour. Now there's 2 colors on here that absolutely make this background pop, and that is the green, although you don't end up seeing a whole lot of it, and the purple, which again just adds that little bit of something something. Now those 2 colors also do not play nice. So I learned if I go purple over the green, I get a color that I don't really like, and it just is distracting to the effect that I want. So I just avoid putting purple over the green. And that seemed to avoid getting that color I wasn't very fond of. But all the other colors blend very well together because they all have some color in common. Blues and teals and the green all have blue in them, so that's why they work so well. The purple with the red kind of makes mud with the green, right? And I'm just blending this all the more, trying to get it around the clip. That it's a little bit of a hardship, but I'm sure I'll work out a better system. I have about 10 of these mini clipboards, and if you're interested in seeing more videos of different designer things that you can do with a clipboard, please let me know. I've got several ideas, and I'm quite excited about finally doing them. So here I'm just layering colors to just build up the colors till I get something that I like. And it looks nice on the camera, but oh my gosh, in real life it's beautiful. So now I'm putting another layer, visual layer of the same stamp. And I'm being a little bit more careful here to get a nicer stamp because this is not going to be pushed back. And here I am kind of crossing into the mid part because later on, once it's stamped, once you do the outside edges, it's a little difficult. And again, turning the stamp this way and that way. Also, it's perfectly fine not to have a complete stamp. Sometimes you want just a little bit of it. And try, I think we tend to always tilt things the same way. Think out of the box and try doing it your own way. Just a little bit of the bottom of the feather, peeking through, just adds that little bit of something. Now I have a space right there that I didn't get to, but you know what? It'll all be good. And giving it a good dry. When you use the acrylic paint, you do get a bit of texture there. Didn't want to use a lot of texture. I will explore that in other clipboards, but I didn't want to get a whole lot of texture on this other than visual texture. So this is a Peacock stencil from Crafter's Workshop. and I am applying with a makeup sponge some Pebeo iridescent Dyna color. And this is blue-green. I only have 3 colors of this. And so I'm putting that on. I just kind of want that iridescent quality, that little extra something something, because, well, you know what, I need shimmer. Here you see me masking off one of the peacock feathers in the stencil. And, you know, do that. You don't have to use the entire stencil. You can mask off parts that you do not want. Now with this Dyna, I'm being very careful to put on very little at a time. And I knew going in that I'm going to put 2 layers instead of 1 thicker layer, which can then seep under. I really didn't want that to be happening in this application. And some, you know, you're not so worried about it because it's a further back and makes part of the background. But here it's kind of in the forefront, and being iridescent, it really is going to. So here's the grand unveiling, and loving it. Oh my gosh, it's just so gorgeous. I kind of wishing that I had used both the blue-green iridescent and I have the blue-black one, which I did sample later on and gives a nice effect. I think I could have mixed those up, and maybe even the pink, I don't know. Here I'm edging the black. Now I admit I tried edging it with the iridescent and went to the black, and I think the black works better because it coordinates with the stamped peacock feathers that were also in black. It just made it so rich. So now I'm doing the back side, and I've sped this up even more because you've seen me doing this process, and I've put a paper towel underneath it. What I found is that just on the surface of the table, it kind of scratched, and it just marked up the paint that I had. So easy enough to put a cloth or a paper towel, and that totally solved the problem. I think if you really let it dry completely, that would also solve the problem. And edging it with black. Now I could have left the background there, but you know, I wanted to explore, and you know what, I have another peacock stencil. Yes, I love my peacocks. This is another Crafter's Workshop, and I will put a description or a link to this one if I can find it in Amazon. And this time I decided I'm just going to use black. I'm going to go for that contrast, because part of my reasoning for doing 2 different applications was just to test it out and see which I liked more. And I couldn't make up my mind. Who are we kidding? So again, I'm doing little by little, not getting a whole lot of paint on the makeup sponge and not pressing hard on the sponge, if that makes sense, because that's just going to push more paint out. So I'm dipping it into the black, and then I'm tapping it outside. Stenciling just takes time, and there we have that side. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to decide, because I love this side as well. It's a very different effect than the front, but it's beautiful. Couple places where at the edge I didn't go all the way to the edge, and being a perfectionist, you know, sometimes I try to tell myself it doesn't matter, but you know, it does. Sometimes, when the fix is easy. Now on camera, I did not show how I seal this. I'm going to varnish this, and what I'm going to use is Krylon sealer fixative, and spray that on both sides. Now here you see me cleaning the acrylic paint off of the hardware, and I just put on a baby wipe some Murphy's Oil soap spray that I have, and I'll put a link to that video. And all the acrylic paint came off really easy peasy. Now when I spray it, I will tape around the hardware so I don't get the spray on the hardware, because that would be unsightly and I think difficult to get out. just touching up little bits here and there. The edge is now black, so had I known, I wouldn't have bothered putting the teal. And here are some close-ups of the finished clipboard. So you can use this, hang it on the wall. It's decorative as it is. You can stick Post-it notes on it. It could be chores, a chore list. You can have one for every family member, you know, ins and outs, things that are going on. The usability is there. It's also very cool to have, you know, if you've got a child and they have a particular liking of, in this case, peacocks or fish or whatever, you can totally personalize the clipboards. So again, I hope you come back and watch other clipboards as I design them. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time for another mixed media creation. Bye.